Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Josh Nelson, who's the founder and CEO of Keystone Financial Services. Josh, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. I'm looking forward to getting to know you and your business and how you approach making a difference in people's lives. Give us a little bit of your background and what your entrepreneurial journey has been like.
Yeah, I think it was kind of accidental. Like maybe many of us, I think, kind of end up accidentally becoming business owners and entrepreneurs. Yep. But early on, my mom actually did a great job when I was a little kid, kind of getting that entrepreneurial spirit going, getting into the paper route business and selling lemonade and all that stuff, right? But, she taught me a lot of money lessons back then. And it's kind of funny. I actually used to, when I was really little, I used to dress up in a suit and hat and go to the office. So it's kind of funny that I ended up in that line of work. I ended up, kind of getting into the financial industry accidentally through college and working at a bank and so forth. And, bounced around at a couple of different companies where I worked as an employee, certified financial planner, but then started my own firm about 11 years ago. And, at that point, I had built up enough of a network, enough relationships at that point that I was pretty sure that it was going to work. I didn't know, of course, and that's the scary part about being an entrepreneur is there's not a lot of certainty there, right? You can feel as confident as you want, but there's no guarantees, and most businesses don't make it.
Yeah, I think we can go down that road for about 4.5 hours and still be scratching the surface on that one. But I feel like the money side of things, the financial, the game plan of starting a business and being entrepreneurial, some of that you learn along the way. I feel like there's a lot of gurus and mentors out there that will help guide, but I don't think that anybody actually has it all figured out before they launch, because then you feel like you have analysis paralysis.
I think that's true. I think if you had it all figured out before you started, you would never start because there's so much uncertainty. There's so many things you don't know, right? You probably would never do it. So, it's like anything in life, riding a bike or anything that you might learn, there's going to be some bumps and bruises, and there's going to be a lot of things that you learn very quickly.
Yeah, so I think the one of the things you bring to your clients on your website, it says your commitment is to bring an effective game plan. And I like how that is worded because, hey, we're going to bring you a game plan. That's good, but we're going to bring an effective game plan. Talk a little bit about the difference between just a game plan and one that's effective.
Well, I think the average American they might have some vague idea, I guess, if you asked them what's your financial plan or your strategy, and I think a lot of them would give you a blank look. They would not feel very confident. I think they have some vague idea that, hey, I'm putting into a 401k or I'm getting my debt paid off. I'd like to retire someday. But for the most part, people really haven't done the numbers. They haven't figured out specifically what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And as financial planners, of course, that's our job, is to figure out really what does this person want? Like, what is it that we're trying to accomplish here, first of all? And then let's get a really clear idea on where you are today. So it's that point A, point B, and then figuring out the whole financial world of what are all the strategies and things that we need to do with the resources that you've got. And, as I say that, as the words come out of my mouth, it seems like, well, that's so basic, right? that everybody would have that, but most people do not have that. I'd say it's a rare occasion when you talk to somebody who actually has a complete financial plan and feels confident in
it. Well, it makes me think of the old saying, what's easy to do is easy not to do. Because it is pretty easy to sit down and make that plan or to get with someone and guide you. But if it's easy to do, then it's also easy to go, that later. And sometimes later never comes.
That's true. Yeah, I think the reality is that most people are just kind of consumers. They're just spending and going on vacations and buying cars and things like that. And I think to a large degree we've been conditioned to behave that way, really, as Americans especially. I think our savings rates are abysmal and have been for quite some time. I think there's a lot of marketing that goes into that, of course, and we've got to resist that. And so I think it's the rare person who says, yeah, I know I could do that, but I'm really thinking more long-term, not short-term. So I think you actually have to put yourself in that place of down the road that 55, 60, 65, whenever it is that person wants to retire, what do I want my life to look like, and what do I need to do? With the time I've got and the money I've got, what do I need to do to make that happen?
Yeah, and of course, the age old question is, when should you start planning for retirement? And I literally feel like there's no set answer, because it's like as early as possible. I mean, it literally should be as early as possible. So one question that I would have for you is, when someone finally says, I need to begin planning, or I want a second opinion on the plan that I have, or whatever the case is, what is it that you're bringing to your clients regarding clarity? Because I know that there are so many nuances of investment planning, retirement planning, insurance planning, estate planning, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. If you were to see a 1 or 2 page, a menu per se of all these considerations, I think people would feel overwhelmed. So what are you bringing to your clients to help with that?
It's funny, when I started as a financial advisor, investment advisor, whatever they made me call myself in the late 90s, various job titles, right, that we all can have. But at the time, a lot of people were saying, gosh, Josh, I don't know if this is going to be a good industry for you. This is kind of going away because we've got the internet now. We've got E-Trade. You can do your trading for cheap or free. And so why would people need a financial advisor? And the reality is that shortly after that, of course, we had the year 2000, Y2K, we had 9/11, we had the accounting scandals, Arthur Andersen and Enron in 2002. So 3 down years, big down years, 3 double-digit years negative in the market. At the same time, information was exploding, and the reality is it's actually made us more valuable because there's just so much information out there and so much quote-unquote advice, right, that, of course, and it all contradicts itself, and so people are just so confused. I think that they don't necessarily want to become financial experts. At least the people that would use somebody like myself, our firm, they don't want to become financial experts. They have other areas of expertise. Plus, they've got things that they enjoy, their family, travel, all kinds of stuff that they want to do. So the reality is that we are taking that point A and point B, and then that in between is figuring out, okay, with all the information that's out there right now, what's happening in the economy and the markets and so forth, really, what does this person need to do?
I think you bring up a really big point about all the information we have at our fingertips, because
too much information.
Well, it's information overload, and I feel like the old saying, knowledge is power. It's the cliche is, no, it's not power. The application of the knowledge is power. But in drilling down even deeper, it's knowing how to apply the knowledge that's power. And there's a quote I love by Jack Welch, and he says, knowledge no longer is power because everyone has it. Access to knowledge has never been easier or faster. Well, if you were to give some of that information overload to someone and say, oh, here's what you need to do A to Z about whatever the topic in whatever financial market consideration, their eyes would just glaze over and go, okay, you had me at you lost me at the second sentence. But that's why people need that guide. That's someone to say, look, I've gotten to know you. I know your goal is. I know that you want to accomplish. Let me just show you this, and let's see if this resonates. And let me just show you how this could fit into. And I think that when you come alongside people and you take your knowledge and kind of make sure that it is assimilated into what they understand, I think that's where people feel really comfortable working with someone in your field, right?
I think so, and I think it's kind of like anything. There's too much information out there. In healthcare, for example, there's a million different resources, and they all contradict each other as far as what kind of diet, what should we be actually eating. What one source says, well, you have to do this. The other one says, well, if you do that, you're going to die, right? So, there's just too much conflicting information. As financial planners, I think it's our job to really help figure out what the client needs and where they're coming from, because until we've got some kind of understanding of really their values, really what's important to them, it's going to be hard for us to really figure out what it is that motivates them and what will kind of take them from not taking any action. And in a lot of cases, that's where people are, is it's not that they don't know. I think for a lot of people, they kind of know, I should be saving for retirement. I shouldn't be eating so much sugar, whatever it is, right? I think we all know. But until we're actually applying something and taking action, then the knowledge really isn't worth anything. It's potential power. I think knowledge is potential power.
Yeah.
but only, put into a strategy and something that person actually buys into. I think, kind of like a workout plan or again, a diet. We could pay the best dietitian in the country to come up with meal plans for us and so forth. We could even, have a chef that's going to prepare the meals for us and everything. But ultimately, we've got to be the ones that decide, yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to buy into it. I'm going to be disciplined. So, it's our job also on the psychology end of things is figuring out what motivates that person, because we can come up with the best strategies, the best plan in the world. But at the end of the day, if they're not going to buy into it, if they don't believe it, then it's not going to happen. It's going to be just like the person who goes out and starts lifting weights and I'm sore and everything, and they give up after a few days, right?
100%. And sometimes, well, I would even maybe say most times, that it takes something, take the doctor saying, if you don't change, you're going to have a stroke or heart attack, to then hire that person. And it reminds me of the old story about this farmer going up to talk to his buddy farmer, and he goes and he's chatting, and here's the old hound dog on the front porch, and every so often he'll lift his head up and howl and then lay back down. And finally the one farmer goes, how come your dog just howls every few minutes? And he goes, oh, he's just laying on a nail. And he goes, well, how come he doesn't get up and move? And he goes, well, it doesn't hurt him bad enough yet. So I think that
good point. I love that.
You know what I'm saying? When people get sick and tired of being sick and tired, then they make a decision. Well, that makes me think of another question. Yes, an adult, whatever age group we want to think about, needs to plan for retirement. Well, how do you feel or recommend that the younger generation needs to, how can the message be sent out to the younger generation that, look, right now is the time to start. I don't care if you're 21 and got your first job. When you get your first job, you've got more money than you know what to do with because you've been a broke college student. And now here's your first job. How do you get that word out so that they aren't just the ones on the nail going, it doesn't hurt bad enough, until they finally get to the end and it's like, shoot, I'm wanting to retire in a couple years and I'm not even ready.
Yeah, that's it. So it's tricky to, if somebody is talking to me, they're probably already past the point where they're at least a little bit bought into that. I need to do something here. In other words, people wouldn't even come to a financial planner if they weren't thinking about the future. But really, I think most people don't take action and don't really get into it because they get confused. And I think also you mentioned before, well, the mañana factor, right, is that, well, yeah, I can start saving for retirement after this, after that, after I get the car, the house, the whatever. And then we end up, and this happens a fair amount, is that we end up with people that will come into us that are in their 40s, 50s, sometimes even 60s, and they're kind of sheepish, and they say, I feel like I'm way behind here. I don't even know if it's possible to do what it is that I want to do at this point. So, for the younger folks, I think one thing that does help a lot is the fact that high schools are, and sometimes even middle schools, are introducing financial education as part of the curriculum. In fact, it's even a graduation requirement. That helps. And I think more than anything, it's kind of observing, their parents, what their parents did, their other role models, and, seeing one or two things, either, a good example or maybe a warning. We see that as well, too, is people will come in and they say, I don't want to be like my mom and dad because they never saved for retirement and now they're broke and so forth. So what you said before, as far as the analogy with the nail and the dog, I think pain is a good motivator and fear is a good motivator. And so if people are scared that, hey, I don't want to end up like this, or I don't want to start too late, if they can believe that, then they're much more motivated to actually take action.
Yeah, and it's almost like the old, I don't know, whatever, scared straight or whatever back in the day, they used to take kids to jails and go, don't end up here. Well, maybe there should be some sort of financial scared straight and say, look, don't end up like this, whatever this might be. And it doesn't, guess what? It doesn't have to be don't end up homeless. Well, that's extreme. Not managing your money doesn't always end up there, but it could end up with just horrendous amount of stress. And many people are motivated by, negative motivation like that, but many people are motivated and drawn towards something. So maybe painting that picture of, wouldn't it be nice if, and whatever that looks like for the person, you almost become like a life coach going, look, I'm not going to say you're going to sit on the beaches of the world and play golf the rest of your life because that might bore yourself to tears. But at some point, you want the freedom and flexibility to be able to do that. We need to get yourself to that spot.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And that's where we play part-time psychologist. And It's funny, sometimes clients will say that at the end of a meeting, sometimes even long-time clients that we've met for years. And I'll say, you know what, you should have a sofa in here, right? So we can glide down and do the whole psychologist thing. So, but, in a lot of cases, money is a very emotional topic. It's money is just a tool, but ultimately it does result whether we're financially secure, whether we can just make it, first of all. But, the second side is, hey, the freedom to be able to go travel and help grandkids and all kinds of other dreams that people might have.
Yeah. And it's different for everybody, and the motivating factor is different for everybody. And I think that employers would be shocked if you said, hey, what I want you to do is go and just interview, even personally, but send out a survey to your employees and go, hey, what would motivate you more to do a really spectacular bang-up job on this project? A bonus, more time off, extra, office with a view or whatever. And I think that most people, the employers would feel like, oh, it's the money. And many times it's not. It's like, oh my word, I would love to have 2 extra long weekends in the year. That would be wonderful. And you're going, wow, that's an easy thing to give. So the thing that motivates people is different. And then the same thing on the flip side is you would never give the same financial strategy to every single one of your clients. Every plan is different. So you've got to know where to pull here and add this and tweak this and polish that up. And that's where you need to have that professional guide like you guys.
Yeah, I think that's where there's some art and there's some science. And one reason people don't make it in this business oftentimes is not because they're not smart enough or that they didn't get enough, education and so forth. It's because they can't relate well with people. They just, their personality is such that they just don't have those soft skills. So that's where this is a science and an art. There's 2 sides of this, and the people that have the science end, great. There's the technical side, but if you can't develop that rapport with people and get people to emotionally buy into the plan that you're proposing, you're going to have a really hard time. You've got to have both. It's not to say that somebody can have great people skills and suck as an advisor, right? And not have the knowledge. That's bad too, but you really have to have both sides of it.
100%. I think that's exactly right. Well, Josh, it's been really great having you on. Let's wrap up with what's the best way that someone could reach out, connect with you, learn more about Keystone Financial Services.
Yeah, just our website, keystonefinancial.com, probably is the easiest way. We've also had a lot of fun over the past year. We're a little bit behind you, but a little bit behind on the podcast side, but we started just over a year ago, the Wiser Financial Advisor Show. So just go to wiserfinancialadvisor.com. We're coming up. We do 1 a week, so we're coming up on our 52nd episode here next month. So, yeah, it's been fun, and we've definitely been able to enjoy a lot of connections with people that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'll make sure that the link to your website is in the show notes.
Yep. Thanks so much, Mike.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.